Hi, my name is Jolson Lim, and I'm with the Charlatan. And today here we have Premier Kathleen Wynne to talk about the recent Ontario Student Grant Plan in education. It's a pleasure having you.
Thanks, Jolson. Thanks for having me.
My first question would be, I think both of us would think that the most, confusing part about the Ontario Student Grant Plan is the free tuition. There are caveats, one of them being the $3,000 contribution students are expected to make in order to access these grants. Do you still have worry about, how it's being marketed?
So let's just be clear. The $3,000 is not a requirement. So the grant is not contingent on that. That's just the sort of general expectation, but it's not a requirement. And the reality is that for students in families where the income is $50,000 or less, who are applying and to a program, the average tuition cost will be free. That's the reality. And in fact, students in that income bracket, many times they will get more than the tuition cost, more than the average tuition cost, between $50,000 and $83,000. For many of those students, it will be free, depending on program and so on. But up to $50,000, that average tuition cost is free.
About the $3,000 contribution, you said it was, not set in stone. How come it was put in the budget plan in the first place? I think that a lot of confusion came from that as well, and you're clarifying.
But I think students who have applied for student assistance know that there is that sort of discussion with officials. There's that expectation that many students will have a summer job, they will be able to earn some money, and it's around $3,000 that they will bring to the mix. Because as a student applies, they look at what their ability to pay is. And I guess the other thing I want to add is that if students in that income bracket are going into a program that costs more than the average tuition, it's not OSAP that the grant will not necessarily cover that, but the universities are required to top up that tuition payment. So it is a real change in the way we're doing tuition and supporting students in the province.
You said that the language around the grant plan is evolving. How so?
Well, actually, the discussion is evolving across the province, but, we've been very clear. We put it in our budget plan. It was very clear what it is we're doing, and I'm having this conversation with you because I want to make sure that everyone around the province understands that as of 2017, that group of students in that income bracket will be able to access tuition grant that will make their tuition free, the average cost of tuition free.
There are students who come from families with incomes over $83,000. Some of them do need to require some kind of financial aid. What will they expect given the new changes surrounding the budget? Right.
So you'll remember that we have had in place for a number of years a 30% off tuition grant, and so for students in that category from $83,000 to $160,000, they will still qualify for the 30% off tuition. So nobody's going to be worse off in terms of their access. And as I say, the students in the lower income and lower middle income will be much better off. And the other thing is that each student, when they make their application, there are other considerations. So it depends, what the number of students in a family that the family is supporting, whether the student is going away from home to go to school. All of those considerations are part of the calculation.
How come the new grant plan doesn't necessarily affect, part-time students, independent students, and mature students?
Well, it does affect mature students. It does affect independent students. You mean students who aren't supported by their families? Yes, it does. And in fact, that's a change because the 30% off tuition grant only began when students graduated from high school, and it was only good for the 4 years after high school. Now, whether students have just left high school or not, they can qualify for the Ontario Student Grant. Basically, there's a lifetime access, so of 8 semesters, and for 12 semesters for students with learning disabilities. So, that means that students who have been out of school for some time can come back and they will still qualify. That was something that I felt very strongly about, because adult learners who, have been out of the system for a while often are the most motivated, and we need to support them in getting back into school.
So this group of students, and I guess also people who come from families with income over $83,000, they'll expect the same amount or more.
Yes, exactly. They can expect the 30% off tuition, and then there may be other adjustments because of their circumstances.
Will there be more changes, for example, to OSAP before the election?
Well, it's 2 years until an election, so I can't say that there won't be any. But this change actually doesn't come into place until September 2017, because it takes some time to get the systems up and running. So this is the biggest change that we will make. There may be other refinements that we need to put in place, but this is happening September 2017, and it's a very big deal for students across the province.
Okay. I want to talk briefly about post-secondary education funding in Ontario. Right now, percentage-wise, the Ontario government, I guess, provides the least for post-secondary schools, and students provide the most to, I guess, fund these schools. Do you think that the level of funding right now for post-secondary institutions should be at the level it is?
Well, actually, if you take into account all of the supports that we have in place for students and for universities and colleges, we're not actually it's not actually the most expensive in the country. So, and I assume that's what you're saying. It's the most expensive for kids to go to school, or it's the lowest funding.
But also, in terms of percentage funding compared to any other province, Ontario provides at least according to Statistics Canada.
Well, again, those you'd have to show me exactly what numbers you're looking at. But my understanding is that once you take into account all of the supports that we put in place for students, we're not actually the lowest. It actually increases to the middle of the pack. So we actually support our university sector to a much higher degree.
But do you expect any, I guess, funding increases for universities in the near future?
Well, we continue to work with universities to refine the funding model. Actually, that's something that's happening right now. There's a very big discussion among universities and with the government about whether the way the funding model works makes sense. Not necessarily about more money, but how the funding model actually supports the universities. So I think you'll see more information about that in the future. But as I say, there is a discussion right now because colleges and universities aren't funded in the same way, and so there are questions about whether there are changes to the funding model that need to be put in place.
I think in relation to that, next year we'll have the tuition fee framework. It'll have to be revised. Do you expect any sort of changes to what it is right now?
Well, I think that's the discussion. Is what are those changes? What do we need to be looking at? My concern, quite frankly, has been to make sure that all students have access. And so that's why we made this change to tuition. That's why we made the student assistance change, because the way the grants and loans were working was not working for low income and low middle income families. If you look at the statistics, there were much higher percentage of young people from high income families than low income families going to post-secondary, and that's what needs to stop.
And my last question would be, in the grand scheme of things, where do you put some, change with the Ontario Student Grant Plan?
In terms of priority?
Yes.
Education is the reason I'm in provincial politics. I believe that it is the most important thing that government can do, because even things like health outcomes flow from having an educated population. And, if we're going to grow the economy in this province and create jobs, which has to be any government's top priority, it is our top priority, education is a critical building block of that economic growth and prosperity. So it's an extremely high priority for me. And when I say education, yes, it's about tuition, but it's right from early learning right up to post-secondary and postgraduate.
Thank you, Premier.
Thank you very much.